Kishi Bashi has been working with the Wartime Incarceration Project with us for a few years now, but he's also been working on Omoiyari, the documentary and album now out. I've asked Kei to select some of his music, just like I've asked Christine. And so I will turn the floor to Kishi Bashi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's kind of like, well, first of all, thank you, Christine. Really beautiful poetry. I enjoy that very much. I guess I come from a different perspective in that, you know, my parents are post-war immigrants. And so we really have I have no direct connection or direct trauma, you know, with the Japanese American incarceration. So to kind of summarize how I approached it, you know, as an artist, as a songwriter, I kind of took, you know, it was a struggle because of not having a personal connection. I tried to see myself in those shoes of like what it would be like to be, I treat it as a civil rights issue, something extremely relevant today about other rising immigrants and war hysteria. And I think what I found was that a lot of, as I grew up on the East Coast as a Japanese American, I was really kind of surprised to find there was a whole population of Japanese Americans who did not speak Japanese. And there's people on the West Coast and I would meet them and it would really seem strange to me because my parents had instilled a lot of Japanese culture and Japanese, and they wanted me to speak Japanese as much as possible. And we celebrated a lot of holidays and things like that. But this culture really, the community that I had met in the course of just throughout my life about the Japanese American community on the West Coast was really struggling to reclaim their heritage. And that really surprised me. I didn't really understand that until I really started researching it a lot. And I think that was one of the things that was the most sad and hurtful to me is that, you know, there was an internal and external suppression of language and culture in these camps. It's because you were the culture of the enemy at the time, which was unfortunately just unacceptable, you know, and in an effort to assimilate, they would just tell their kids to be as quote unquote American as possible. And so this is the song when I visited, I had visited many incarceration camps. This is when I visited Jerome in Arkansas. There's two camps, Rower and Jerome. And this is a song. And it starts with a Japanese melody. It's about the loss of language and culture. It's called Theme from Jerome. So I wrote this little Japanese melody. After today, speak the new. With every word you walk from the comfort of our hands. 'Cause after all, we fight the war with enemies unseen. 'Cause here we are in Jerome. Kanashimi furete mo arata na uhi kokoro tomo yo wasurete these words today. How many times I'd smile if you'd remember me with this song. La, 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 girl. She fell in love, and on the sun-dried lands it settled in, started again. And when they'd sleep, she'd sing this melody to her beloved sons, forgotten words from Japan. La, 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 Thanks. So that song, it's like my dad sings Japanese enka karaoke, so he just loved that. So he's been playing saxophone for fun, so he just totally picked up that melody. It's very Japanese to him. So, but let's see. So that was on my so my album Omoiyari, and the documentary of the same name is actually it's an ongoing project. The album came out 2 years ago because it takes more than 2 years to make a documentary, and not 4 years to make an album. So the album, a lot of the songs and the improvisations I wrote as I toured incarceration camps and learned about not just Japanese American incarceration, but just my own minority identity as a modern Japanese American person, and a lot of times it's like I started off, as Christine, the poet, you look inside as an artist to kind of figure out, what resonates with you and how you can actually relate to people back then. And a lot of times, and everywhere I looked, it's very easy to get angry about the situation and to feel that trauma, as Christine said about her father's trauma and her grandfather, but her grandfather being a trombone player, that's something I can relate to because I'm a musician, is that like it doesn't matter who you are, what you do. They locked up every single Japanese American on the West Coast, into these incarceration camps. And so, but also what really inspired me was, it's very easy to write sad and dark music about it, but I also saw a lot of resilience especially like in the photos of Dorothea Lange and Ansel Adams. They would take pictures of them having doing the best that they can with their lives, oftentimes smiling. And that really confused me at first. As an artist, you think, how could you elevate this experience? The reality is, these are people who they were miserable every day. They fell in love, they had humiliating moments, but they also did their best to put on a good face for their children and their family and survive and thrive and eventually pick up their lives and to continue telling the story as survivors. And that, to me, it was extremely powerful. And I like to focus on, so a lot of the songs I have, like this one is called Summer of 42, about a couple falling in love at Heart Mountain incarceration camp. This is in remote Wyoming. So the story is, I think they fall in love and then he goes off to war, comes back, she's not there. Just something that could have happened, so but this is how we can connect to them with our shared emotions and similar experiences. So what are the things we wanted, the same as anyone, just a hand to hold a little, after all is said and done, and the days are long and open, cause I had a view of you that summer of 42, when I was in love with you. We counted stars above us, we dream as Xanadu, we'd sneak off to the desert the sound of your fancy shoes. The first day that I met you, I wrote down in my book, I'm in love with you. 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 Oh, I'm in love with you. Oh, I'm in love with you. The days have gone asunder, the chaos of the war made man of everybody, but our memories I adore. We named our favorite sunsets, but I remember very few. The summer of 42, when I was in love with you. The years have turned to ages, and I know you're someone new. I look for you with every breath, soldier wreck with solitude. I climbed to the highest mountain, and I shot into our view. I was in love with you. I was in love with you. I'm in love with you. I'm in love with you. Oh, I'm in love with you. Oh, I'm in love with you. Thank you. ありがとうございました。Let's see. I have another song. Since it is the tsunami of memory. So tsunami is like a wave of utter destruction, and this is actually this is not the violin, but I have a tsunami violin, and a song called Violin Tsunami, and it kind of struck me. I had a friend who made luthier who created the violin for me, and he instilled this. He had created it during the Daishinsai, the tragedy of the Fukushima, not Fukushima, but the tsunami of Sendai. And he was a Buddhist, and he had instilled the spirit of his a prayer into the violin, and that kind of really blew my American mind, as something that it's very foreign to me, is to put your heart into a non-human object, but which is very Japanese, And so this is a song that inspired the violin, that inspired the song, now played on this. So. When our faith was on the edge of the waves, our summer days on earth, memories of a setting sun, would tell a different way to be. That way that over the way, the sun days on earth. second part of the song is about healing and elevation. When in love you're blessed to be, tending the rings of apathy. As an answer you made to the edge of the cancer. Everything.
Thank you so much. Wow. We're very lucky to have you come and visit us soon in person too, but I feel very privileged to hear this and host this today.